How much do you know about the 5 Big Ideas in Teaching for Mastery? Our series takes a look at the 5 big ideas and how they can improve maths teaching at secondary. Representation and structure together are one of the 5 big ideas, but what exactly do they mean? And how can we use representations to expose mathematical structures and concepts? We spoke to Joe Cooper, one of the NCETM's Assistant Directors for Secondary, to ask.
When we talk about representation and structure here, we tend to be talking about concrete or pictorial objects that in some way stand for the mathematics and help us to understand the structure of the mathematics behind them. We might be talking about diagrams or manipulatives that expose the mathematical structures that we are studying. For example, using double-sided counters to expose the structure of negative number arithmetic, with zero pairs giving a really useful and clear representation of additive inverses that helps students to see the underlying structure. More generally, we're talking about well-chosen representations of mathematical structure, and these representations might be words, images, or symbols. One way to view representations is to think about how the mathematical structure is exposed by the context, images, symbols, and language that we're using to represent them.
Why are representations in maths important?
Since we are always representing the maths in some way through language, images, and symbols, this means there's no getting away from representations. What's important as a teacher is that those representations are carefully planned and chosen to give students the best chance of learning the mathematics under study. The key thing that the representation can do is allow students to access the mathematics. This then supports students to see the structure of the maths and allows access to abstract concepts. The intention is to support students in seeing the mathematics rather than using the representation as a tool to do the mathematics. These representations then become mental images that students can use to think about and discuss mathematics, supporting them to achieve a deep understanding of mathematical structures and connections. Some representations are integral to learning maths. Students won't get far without an understanding of number lines, Cartesian coordinates, algebraic graphs, and the many other representations that are part of all students' mathematical education. Similarly, there are some representations that really support learning from Key Stage 1 to the end of Key Stage 5 and beyond. The area model, for example, supports students' first steps in understanding numbers and multiplication, but can be equally well used to explore quadratic equations and surds. This is because all of these topics are connected to multiplication, which can be represented using the area model.
How does representation and structure fit into the 5 big ideas in Teaching for Mastery?
Careful use of representations really supports the principles of Teaching for Mastery. Representations provide access to the maths so that all students can learn and enjoy mathematics. Representation supports students to make connections and provide a focus for discussions around reasoning. By providing a shared focus, representations can help students to engage with the maths and with each other. Similarly, when planning as a department, they can be a vehicle for teachers to develop and work collaboratively. When curriculum design includes carefully planned representations, they can support deep and sustained understanding of the mathematics. The most effective representations and mental models are complementary with each other, and that isn't a coincidence. Since double-sided counters represent a particular additive structure, they're used in the same way as the small algebra tiles, because they're representing the same structure. This is just an example, but it shows the importance of using representations that are carefully considered rather than ad hoc representations, because they'll be more coherent with each other and provide a more coherent experience for students.
What are your top tips for teachers who want to make effective use of representations?
I think teachers should be careful to use them purposefully and intelligently in a planned way and always in service to the learning. I recognise that that's easier said than done. Teachers need to learn the representation and become comfortable with it. I mentioned earlier that students need to learn the representation. I think teachers also need to make sure they're familiar with the representation before they bring them to students. We think teachers should carefully select and plan representations of mathematics to expose the mathematical structure. So more is not necessarily better. We don't need to have lots of different representations. it's better to have fewer well-chosen representations that explain the structure and aid the coherence for the students.
That's great. Thanks, Joe. If you want to learn more about using representations in your classroom or maths department, visit our website to read the full Q&A with Joe. If you want to learn more about teaching for mastery in a secondary context, visit our website for more information on the other 5 big ideas